had never in my life envisioned that a movie could do what this movie was doing. And it was showing me things that I'd never seen, and it was intellectually challenging, and it was an artistic masterpiece in every way, from the soundtrack to the visuals to the storyline. And when the movie ended, I couldn't get out of my seat. I was frozen in the seat, completely paralyzed.
And the one who is most apparent, because it's right at the edge of the door, and it's the largest one that you can see, and it's the last one you can see as the camera moves past it, is one of the seven dwarfs, and it happens to be Dopey. Okay. Subsequently, after Danny has passed out, Wendy and the pediatrician leave Danny's room, and as they do, they of course go out his door, and you again see the door, the open door with all the cartoon characters on it. And Dopey isn't there. Now, again, continuity error? I don't think so. I think what Kubrick is saying is that before, Danny had no idea about the world, and now he knows. He's no longer a dope about things. He has been enlightened.
They use the camera to create an emotional architecture in your mind, but at the same time showing you that it's false. The set is so completely plastic that its contradictions pile up in your subconsciousness.
Halloran is showing...
He would research everything and the full history and nature of everything you're going to see in the movie on the screen. And then boil it down until he got the universal human and global patterns that make it so real. All of these patterns of our world, and then giving them back to us in a dream of a movie, because movies are like a dream. And that's related to why I think there's a lot of evidence that what Kubrick also gave us in The Shining is a movie about the past. Not just any past. The past. I mean, pastness. It's a movie about how the past impinges. That's what ghosts are. That's what those skittery voices in the opening shot that are following are about. There's two phrases from T.S. Eliot that I often think of when thinking about The Shining. One of them is I think it's both from T.S. Eliot, the nightmare of history. How can we awake from the nightmare of history? And the other is his phrase, T.S. Eliot's phrase, history has many cunning passages. And I think both of those phrases are directly apt for The Shining, in which we see many cunning passages in the maze and in the hotel itself, and in which the past becomes a nightmare, and in which Kubrick shows us how you escape from the nightmare of the past by retracing your steps, as Danny does in that last line, which means acknowledging what happened or learning about the past, and then getting out. Only if you are going to be able to shine and see what the patterns are so you know how to get away from them and avoid them and go for the good things.
And he passes a wreck, and in the wreck a semi has crashed and crushed a red Volkswagen. And this is a direct message from Kubrick to King, because in the novel, Jack Torrance's car is a red Volkswagen, but in the movie it's a yellow Volkswagen. And what Kubrick is saying in that scene is a big F-U to Stephen King. He's saying, this is my vehicle, I have wrecked your vehicle, and everybody in the world can see it. And this drove King crazy, and it should have.
This is a complete metaphor for what Kubrick is on about, because the elevator doors remain closed. In other words, it's as if it's like a symbol of the repression. We don't want to admit to it, but in spite of our attempting to stay repressed about it, blood will out, murder will out, as Chaucer says in one of his tales. And so the blood comes squeezing out from the side and overwhelms us. And the soundtrack had that skittering, I can't imitate it, but that skittering music that sounded to me, and I was conscious of this the first time I saw the movie, like the thousands of voices from the past, the cloud of witness, as the phrase is in, Dorothy Sayre uses the title for some story, the cloud of witness, and The Shining, as we come to understand it, is seeing through all the layers of history and the horrors of history, even autobiographically, in that scene where where Grady and Jack talk in the blood red men's room, and Grady says, "Your son has a very great talent. I don't think you realize how great it is. He's a very willful boy." And Jack says, "Yes, he is a very willful boy."
Did you know, Mr. Torrance, that your son is attempting to bring an outside party into this situation?
That's Kubrick. And what he's trying to do is bring the audience and humanity into this situation. In this movie, he is trying to get through to us all, the human race in the movie theaters watching this, that we are doing these things but don't see it. That we are committing these horrendous things over and over again and then forgetting it, which is, of course, he represents many times in the movie, by having characters seem to know something and then not know it and forget it.
You chopped your wife and daughter up into little bits.
I don't have any recollection of that at all.
That's like the human race. We commit atrocities and then forget it. People who shine, who see through history, understand that the past simply does not exist, except in one place, and that's the present tense instant of the mind, remembering it. The design on the rug shows basically the most, in geometric form with round curves, the act of intercourse itself, one after another, sort of like a picture of down through the generations of what produces life. You go back out in the hallway, in the larger society, and the round curves of that very same design have become hexagons, not so nice and round and a little bit more like the beehive hexagon, but down the whole corridors of history.
The pattern on the rug changes when Danny stands up.
The carpet is reversed, and there's no pathway there anymore. The pathway that the ball took rolling down towards Danny is gone now. It's no longer there because it's reversed, and you get a sense of a closure. Now the hexagon is closed. It's almost like he's been closed in.
It's a way of like opening doors from like a hermetically sealed reality into. But you know, there are escape routes. Like I think he puts escape routes into this maze, into this trap. There are ways out of it. I mean, Danny finds a way out of it. You know, by retracing his steps, by going backwards and forwards. Point of view is being altered by your study, and you know, it's quantum physics, you know, like the act of observing like affects the thing observed.
Hi, Lloyd.